Okay, everybody, it's video 15, excuse me, 15, and I'm going to show you today the, Bible on cards thing I was doing like 30 years ago, and I believe like it was a system like you can use for anything for like remembering information, and it's just kind of like breaking down information, compartmentalizing it, kind of putting um, creating like different contexts, for the book that you want to read, so that you can have fewer and fewer locations, or I guess more and more locations in which to find less information. So, anyways, with all that said, I was kind of explaining what I was doing. Um, the whole idea of how it started was I was trying to, like, I was reading the Bible back then, like every day, because that was my book that I went to continuously, and I was trying to remember like where to find stuff in it, right? And I couldn't. It just seems like a big book, a whole lot of pages of information, and trying to find anything in there anywhere is really hard, right? And trying to find a book, like where do you find Zephaniah? Where do you find like Malachi? Like it's in there somewhere, right? But it's really hard to just flip through a vast amount of material and find one specific verse you're looking for, one specific, book you're looking for. I found it's just you're trying to remember a lot of information and just hold it all in your head together, because it's all just part of one book, right? And it's all just in there somewhere, right? So I had to start kind of breaking it down and learning that there was components to it, like there's different sections to it, like there's an Old Testament and New Testament, and that right there helps to simplify everything by knowing that that I'm going to find some information in the Old Testament, some information in the New Testament, and that right there helps me locate stuff faster, right? And then if you're still to break down those books, like those testaments, right, into groups of books of the Bible and books, and further understand like how it's broken down, compartmentalize that, it begins to make more sense where to find stuff, right? Like if you took out if you had a house and you understand that they have the different rooms, then it's easier just to find something if you go straight to the bathroom, or straight to the bedroom, or straight to the den, or whatever. If you start breaking it up, right, you start to know where to find the toothbrush, right, or where to find the sofa, that kind of thing, right? So the books are the exact same thing, and I used cards to break it down. That's why I want to kind of convert books into a way that you could break it down into cards, because we're going to show you how you can commit that to memory, and it's going to solidify, like stick. It's going to like land as a solid place in your mind as containers to hold information. So anyways, what I did is I had a card, right, and this card was just labeled Bible, right? I just had it Bible. So all the information that's contained in the Bible is just represented by this one card. Now, this breaks down, right, into the Old Testament and New Testament, and I had, one card to represent each one, right? So this card represents everything on this side of the book. This card represents everything on this side of the book. And right now I start to break it down. So if I just take these two cards and I just keep practicing laying them down where they go, right? If I shuffle them up and put them down, Old Testament, New Testament, won't take me long for me to memorize that, right, in my mind. If I'm thinking about it in my mind, I can start to almost visualize, memorize that Bible has Old Testament, New Testament. So further with that, the Old Testament breaks down into 5 groups of books, and the New Testament breaks down into 5 groups of books, right? So if I want to take this Old Testament, I'd have 5 cards, and I'd kind of shuffle them up, and then I'd see what the groups of books are, and then I'd start to lay them down in order, right? So I got 5 cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the same with the New Testament. It had 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And the Old Testament had groups of books. And then I'd label them. And then I'd put on the backs what the locations for these cards are, so I could I could learn it by giving myself the locations, right? And then asking myself, what is the answer? Like, what group of books is this? Like, if I went Bible and then highlighted this one as the Old Testament, and then, you know, highlighted this one, I'd say, what groups of books is that, right? So that's like poetic wisdom per se, right? There's 5 that I learned, and what the point is you just work on this until it solidifies, and then you don't have to remember that anymore. Once something is committed to memory, you don't have to hold it in your mind anymore. It just becomes solid, right? Solid part of your thinking. You don't have to remember it anymore once you know it. So once this becomes solid, then you just have to remember this, right? You just keep practicing with this, and you keep breaking it down, and the structure of this book becomes solidified in your mind as something you don't have to remember anymore. And then you're just working with breaking down this, right? So then eventually you're going to remember the books of the Bible that are for this group, the books of the Bible for this group, books of the Bible for this group. And then if you're trying to remember all 66, you're not actually remembering all 66 in order and trying to hold like 66 books in your mind all at once. You're just remembering 5 at a time, which you can commit to memory if you just have 5 that you're learning, and the answers are given to you. All you have to do is like put them in their spot, right? You don't have to remember what they are. You just have to remember where they go. And that's kind of like a key thing too, right? It's like, if you have information already on a card and it's presented for you, you don't have to remember what the information is. You just have to remember the location of what it is, right? And then if you can remember the location, eventually you're going to start to remember what the information is that goes on that location, because you just keep, you know, it's you keep seeing it and you keep putting it somewhere, and then, you know, the memory of what that is that you're putting there starts to solidify, you know, without even trying. Because if you mix up all these cards and you look at one, you have to your brain has to make a distinction. What card is this, right? And that distinction amongst what it is versus the other cards and where it goes starts to solidify in your mind that as something you can remember, right? It starts to become something that's you know, different than the other ones. It starts to like you start to get like a definition, you know, solidify in your mind of a, you know, what that looks like, or like a picture of it, right? So anyways, I had a card, and say this was like a large card, you know, and it'd have a picture of kind of like, you know, how the Bible breaks down. Now I didn't put, you know, all 10 groups of books on. If I was to highlight this one here for the Old Testament, then this group of 5 would just go directly underneath because it's the downline of this one. But if I had this one highlighted, then this group of 5 would be there, and that's all that would be there because I'm just following the tree kind of down, right? And then if I highlight this one, then the groups of books down here, like this would be New Testament, and that would be the Gospels. So here, the next line would be 4 books here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, because I'd highlight Bible, New Testament, Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then I have the cards, right? So I have the cards for this line, and I just do this like solitaire, right, on a table, and put down Old Testament, New Testament, and then I take all these groups of books, and then I shuffle them up, and I put that, you know, these cards either go on the Old Testament or New Testament, and then when I have these cards just by themselves, I put them in order, right? And it would give me the answer on the back where they go, and then so if I don't remember, right? But I just keep practicing, and I'm only practicing with 5 cards, so it's easy, right? Like I don't start with like 66 cards. I just start with like the 5, right, for each one, and then I learn that, and then I learn this, and then I shuffle them all up together and make it a little bit more difficult and challenging, and then I can put them down where they go, right? So I always work kind of like with one group, and then spread it out and put them where they go, and then put them back in the deck kind of thing, you know, or not the deck, but like in this spot, and then take the next set of cards and then, you know, put them in order, shuffle them up, put them in order, and then do these ones, right? And then, you know, if I was to take all these cards at the bottom here for representing the books, I'd shuffle them up and then put them under the category and then put them in order one by, you know, each separately, because there's not enough room to go, you know, have them all spread out, right? Just do one at a time. But anyways, what the point is, it's kind of like an overview. This would be like Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, Old Testament. This would be like the groups of books, right? So you'd have like, I haven't thought of this for like 30 years, right? But I think this was books of the law, and then the historic books, poetic wisdom, major prophets, minor prophets. So those are groups of books where the books of the Bible are going to be, put into, right? They're going to shuffle up and see where they go and stuff. And then, for the New Testament, I had the Gospels, history of Acts, Pauline epistles, general epistles, and apocalyptic, right? So what we're doing now is once we learn this, you have a place in your mind, almost like containers that become, solidified. They become, like something you already have as a memory, and which you can drop, like learn where these ones go, and becomes part of your memory, which you can learn where the books go within these groups. So when, if I was to say all 66 books of the Bible, right? Like I'd start with the books of the law, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and then historic books, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, the poetic wisdom ones. So there's Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, major prophets, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentation, Ezekiel, Daniel, then minor prophets. I'm not sure if I remember that, but Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then you had like New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, history of Acts, which is the book of Acts, Pauline epistles, which was, excuse me here. Was that like Romans, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians,